Need to replace a press-in wheel hub in a Toyota Camry? Let's talk about it. Hey there viewers, today I'm working on a 2010 Toyota Camry and it's got a front wheel hub noise. Now generally when you're doing wheel hubs I suggest doing them in pairs, not just one side or the other. You ever had to do press-in wheel bearings? Tell me about it, drop it down in the comments. Press-ins are a real bear, so you're gonna have to have access to a shop press in order to get this job done. One of the ways you can tell that a wheel bearing is going bad is either from the growling noise, roaring noise, or sometimes you'll have actually play side to side or up and down in the tire. First we're gonna get this wheel off, which is 21 millimeter. Next, we're going to get the caliper off. Caliper bolts are 14 millimeter. Caliper bracket is a 17 millimeter. Off comes the rotor. This has got an aftermarket CV axle in it, so this one's 1 1/4 inches. CV axle's loose on this one. We got lucky. Move these clips. Pull out that ABS sensor. 10 millimeter. Get that up and out of harm's way. Take the cotter pin out for the tie rod end. This one's an 18 millimeter. Always like to leave the nut on there in case I got a bang on it. One hit wonder. All right, with the tie rod out of the way, the next two steps are going to be to get the knuckle off the strut and pull the ball joint. 21 millimeter on the strut. Leave the nut on the end so you can bang them through. 18 millimeter again, just like that. Knuckle comes off. As you can see, there is a snap ring in here, so you got to get the snap ring pliers and pull that out. There we go. And you can pull the hub while it's on the car, sometimes with a hub puller or slide hammer, but man, that's a lot of work. The first thing we need to do is press the hub out of the knuckle before we can press the bearing out of the knuckle. So that's got to press down. Now again, you could go at it with a slide hammer method, pulling it off on the car side. That is a lot of work and a lot of fight. I find the press just to be a little bit easier. Also, I got this nice little press plate, so that kind of simplifies things. If you ever use the press, you know that there's a ton of combinations of things you can put together to make this work. Some are a little safer than others. I have a little socket set that I keep around just for this. Big thing when you're pressing things is you want to keep everything in as good of alignment as possible so that you're going straight down with it and not creating a bomb. Just like that, out comes the hub. And you'll notice that the bearing is still on it. Or the race of the bearing is still on it. So we're going to have to knock that off or cut that off. Just tap that out the rest of the way. Ta-da! After you get the bearing out, you want to clean up the inside of this. Wire brush or whatever, get it as clean as possible so that it slides in as smooth as possible when you go to put the new bearing back in. Now to get this race off, I'm going to elect to cut it with a cutoff wheel, try to hit it at an angle so I don't dig into the hub itself. Although if you do scuff the hub a little bit, it's not going to hurt anything, but you want to try to avoid that. But if you cut through, get it almost all the way through, hit it with a chisel, it'll break, and then you can actually drive it off of there. Getting close. See if we can knock that out. There we go. The old race is off. Did get into it just a little tiny bit right there. Not a big deal. Hit that with a wire brush and it'll be all right. Big thing is you want to make sure you didn't create a lip. Got our hub cleaned up. We got our knuckle cleaned up. Ready to start installing. It helps to hang on to old wheel bearings to use as a foundation for pushing in new wheel bearings. A side note, anytime you have do a wheel bearing job, take your new wheel bearing and put it in the freezer. Get it as cold as possible, let it contract so that it'll actually press in a little bit easier. On some wheel bearings, you have a magnetic side and a non-magnetic side. This one does not. This one actually uses the tone wheel off of the CV axle, so there is no magnetic side, but you do need to take note of that in case your car has the type that has the magnetic sensor in the wheel bearing. Alright, so now we got our snap ring reinstalled. Let's support this on another bearing so that way I don't push the center through when I'm pushing the wheel hub in. There we go, bottomed out, nice and flush. You get the feeling that you did push it out a little bit. You can always go back in with a socket and kind of shove it back in the hole. But everything's nice and tight, moving like it should. That looks good. So we're ready to reinstall this on the car. Knuckle up. Strut bolts in, nuts on the bottom ball joint assembly, pry bar pulled down on that lower control arm a little bit so I can get that bolt in the back on the ball joint assembly. All our nuts and bolts started by hand. Ball joint's nice and tight. And there's a torque spec on all these, and I can hear everybody in the comments losing their mind right now. I found the Impact does a good job of getting those down. I ain't never had one come back. Back on the tie rod end. Of course, I'm going to use a new cotter pinch. Run the CV axle nut down with a Impact, and we'll come back and we'll actually torque that. If you over or under tighten your wheel bearing, that can cause problems. Cotter pin back in. Torque on this CV axle is 217 foot-pounds. Seems like a lot. Anytime you do this, you always swedge the nut on the CV axle. Knock that little piece down into the groove so the nut don't move. Put the rotor back on. Lug nut to hold it. Caliper bracket. Caliper bracket are 79 inch-pounds. Caliper back on. These bolts are going to get torqued to 25 foot-pounds. We can now replace the ABS sensor. Pop that back in its clip. Slide it back in its hole. Put the 10 millimeter bolt back in here. Now we're ready to put that tire back on. Torque the lug nuts, we'll be done. I hope you found this video informative. If you have any questions, please drop them down below. As always, thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.